You ever hear of 300? You know, this is Sparta! Well, before Leonidas had his 300, Abraham had his 318. But before we get there, we have to talk about these tar pits. We have these 5 desert towns, and they have been paying this tyrant named King Kedorlaomer for 12 years. Let's just call it King K. Year 13, they're done paying. And King K is not a bit happy. He doesn't send a letter. He doesn't send a committee. He heads to Sodom, and he takes out all the neighbors on the way there. Cities are burning. Sodom's allies are gone. The kings of these 5 cities meet together in the Valley of Siddim to make a stand against King K and his allies. Here we are in this valley where the Dead Sea is now. Swords are flashing. The battle cries are echoing across the valley. And then the ground starts to move. Now, this isn't an earthquake. This is worse. The Valley of Siddim is not called the Valley of Siddim for nothing. Siddim means tar pits. So right here in the middle of their life or death battle, the earth begins opening up like hungry mouths. Warriors are swinging their bronze swords when suddenly, sloop, their feet disappear into this thick black tar. They're trying to pull their legs free, but the more they struggle, the deeper they go. Can you imagine the panic? You are fighting for your life. Now you're fighting the earth itself. Some soldiers, they just vanish, swallowed whole. Others, they abandon everything, their weapons, their armor, their dignity. They're trying to crawl out, get on solid ground. And those that do, as the saying goes, they get out of Dodge. After the valley has finished eating the armies alive, King K's forces march right into Sodom. And folks, they take everything, including Lot. Now, Lot is Abraham's nephew, right? But Lot walked away from that relationship. When there was a dispute between Lot's people and Abraham's people over some land, Abraham, being the good guy that he is, he let Lot pick what he wanted. And Lot picked what looked lush. He picked what looked greenest. Think about this. You have Lot under Abraham's protection and Abraham's covenant, but he looks at Abraham's tents, and then he looks at Sodom, and he says, I like that better. He chose what looked good to the eyes, and he left Abraham behind. And now the guy's in chains, watching everything that he chose get loaded into foreign wagons. Thankfully, one of Lot's men escapes. And what does he do? He runs to Abraham. Abraham is living this peaceful life. The Bible says he's living by the oaks. Doesn't that sound nice? And here comes this guy, tar sticking to him, and he delivers the news. Your nephew Lot's been taken prisoner. Abraham doesn't hesitate. He doesn't send diplomats. He doesn't say, well, he made his bed, now let him sleep in it. No. He gathers with his allies, and he gets together 318 trained men, and he goes to battle. It's the dead of night. Now, King K's forces, they are celebrating their victory. They're dividing up their spoils. They have just crushed 5 armies. They feel pretty invincible. Then shadows start moving. Abraham's men are attacking from multiple directions. Chaos ensues. In the darkness, you can't tell friend from enemy. Professional soldiers are panicking. They're running into each other, and then they flee off into the night. And Abraham, he is cutting through the confusion like a man on a mission, because that's his nephew in chains. They've messed with family. Abraham and his men, they recover everything. The people, the goods, the dignity, and most importantly, they bring Lot home. But this isn't just a rescue story. You know this story, don't you? Someone looks at their blessings and says, I can do better. They take their inheritance, whether it's status, wisdom, or just your love, and they walk away. That is Lot. He had Abraham's blessing. He had Abraham's God. But Sodom just looked better. It looked greener. It looked easier. Sodom looked like freedom. And I bet Lot was sitting in those chains thinking the same thing the prodigal thought when he was in that pig pen. I've lost everything. I don't deserve to be rescued. The person that I walked away from owes me nothing. But I love what grace does. It comes anyway. I love what love does. It risks everything for somebody who doesn't deserve it. That'd be me. Abraham proves that family's not about who stays. It's about who comes after you when you're lost. And Abraham points us to someone greater, a kinsman redeemer who didn't just come to rescue one nephew. He came for all the lost sons and daughters. Jesus enters our darkness. He defeats our enemies, and he brings us home. When you call on him, grace doesn't ask what you deserve. It just shows up. If this episode resonated with you in any way, I'd love it if you'd drop a comment. Have you ever experienced grace that you knew you didn't deserve? We've all got a Lot story somewhere, don't we? Be on the lookout for our next episode. We're going to ask the question, who was Melchizedek? And that answer matters more than we often think. Until next time, God bless you.